Well, welcome back. Now, if you believe that there's global warming and that you have to save the Earth from what man is doing, you have to accept a couple of things. Number one, you have to accept that man-made global warming and the production of CO2 is the predominant factor on climate change. Then you also have to accept the fact that even though climate change models predicted that we would have global warming if CO2 went up, that hasn't happened. CO2 has gone up, and for 17 years, temperatures have gone down. Therefore, their model is, as we say in the computer business, garbage in, garbage out. Now, Stephen Colbert had a climatologist, David Keith, on his show, and they talked about climate engineering. And this is very interesting because they hit on chemtrails, and they also hit on the fact that this is something that has been talked about for quite some time by scientists.
The worst way to make decisions about this would be if we all agree that we won't talk about it in polite society, we suppress it, which is basically what had been happening.
Maybe it's happening already. You ever look at those planes up there? They have contrails behind them. Maybe all those planes with the contrails, maybe they're actually spraying chemicals into the atmosphere right now, and Uncle Sam isn't telling us.
Seems extremely unlikely.
That the United States is not telling something to its citizens, that seems extremely likely to me. Read the newspaper.
Now, in that clip, David Keith said the worst thing that would happen would be if scientists would agree that they were going to suppress information about climate change. And that's exactly what they have been doing. Listen to what he said earlier in the interview. He said, this is actually an old idea, climate engineering, known since President Johnson, and the scientific community mostly decided not to talk about it. Well, that's what we've been telling you for quite some time. Well, that's what we've been telling you, that this has been going on since the Vietnam War. And this kind of follows the same pattern that we've seen with the NSA. They do this all the time. First of all, they ridicule the idea as being totally impossible. Then they come in with step two and they say, well, technically it's feasible, but we're not doing it. We would never do it. Then they come in with phase three, which says, yeah, we've been doing it all along and there's nothing you can do about it. And of course, it's for your safety anyway. So that's what we kind of see rolling out here. It's an amazing interview. Take a look at it. Go to Infowars.com, read the article, and watch the full clip. Very interesting. And another story from Infowars.com and Washington Blog is the American Dream dead? American Dream RIP. As Bloomberg reports, the American people know what's going on. The widening gap between rich and poor is eroding faith in the American dream by almost 2 to 1, 64% to 33%. Most Americans say they no longer have an equal chance to get ahead. And this is the interesting thing. This is not just amongst the poor. Those making less than $50,000 a year by 73% to 24% margin say the economy is unfair, but even 60% of those whose annual income is $100,000 or more feel that way. What we see increasingly is that the middle class is being pitted against the poor, but they understand now, they're starting to understand that actually it's a transfer of wealth, not from the middle class to the poor, but from both the middle class and the poor to the 1%. We see that increasingly. It was back in the Depression that we were promised prosperity as a sign of a chicken in every pot. But we've seen a lot of things happening to the quality of our food as big agribusiness comes in. We've seen that we have, first of all, Tyson Chicken back in the Clinton days was able to get the FDA to redefine what frozen and fresh chicken was. And now we see that something is up with China, and John Bound has a report on that.
It's what's for dinner. An estimated $70 billion per year is spent by poultry feasting consumers in the United States. In August of this year, Obama caved into China and the beef industry's demands to process our homegrown chickens in China. That's right. Our chickens will be shipped to China to be processed and then sent right back to us to consume. U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer paraphrased a USDA report indicating that China will likely be allowed to directly import their own chickens into this country.
So you'll be glad to know there are new food labeling regulations, and I think you'll find them very, well, cool. COOL is a U.S. Department of Agriculture program that requires most full-line grocery stores, club and warehouse stores to provide consumers information about where certain foods come from. What about products like this? It lists 3 countries of origin. This means that either the meat used originated in different countries, or the animals were born and raised in one country, say Canada or Mexico, and then slaughtered in the United States.
And when that is fully underway, we can expect tens of thousands of U.S. jobs destroyed as they are shipped over to a country that passed off rat meat as lamb. But it's not just chicken. In September of 2013, NBC reported that shareholders of Smithfield Foods approved a plan to sell the world's largest pork producer and processor to a Chinese company. The U.S. already imports 4 billion pounds of food per year from China. Suddenly raising backyard chickens doesn't sound like such a bad idea until they make that illegal too. For Infowars.com, John Bound reporting.
Well, that's it for our news tonight. Now, if you're not a Prison Planet TV subscriber, now is a great time. We have a Christmas special where you can get 5 months free with an annual subscription. It's a way to support our operation. All of our documentaries, all of Alex Jones's documentaries are there, as well as the nightly news program. Well, right after the break, Leanne McAdoo is going to interview Paul Simmons. He's a sign language expert, a deaf educator, and a former South African activist. And he's going to be talking about the fiasco at the Mandela funeral. Stay tuned.
Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.